U.S. President Donald Trump is fuming over a federal judge's decision to suspend the travel ban over 7 Muslim-majority countries. President Donald Trump has been tweeting about it all weekend, expressing his displeasure at the suspension and hinting that a lot of bad people will be able to enter the United States. Rights groups say there is no basis for the ban, as refugees and immigrants are usually put through a thorough vetting process before they're granted access to the United States. As you've been watching all week, people have been protesting the ban, and now that it has been suspended, hundreds are trying to make their way back in.
This land was made for you and me. Sing it if you know it. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island.
The hero of the story should be the American people. But the man of the moment would be Judge James Robert, who ruled that there were legal grounds to challenge the travel ban.
Sing the second. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine.
He found that legal challenges launched by 2 states, Washington and Minnesota, were likely to succeed. Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson had argued the ban was unconstitutional, as those who had visas who were allowed to travel were denied the right without any due process whatsoever. Courts in at least 4 other states, Virginia, New York, Massachusetts, and Michigan, have been hearing cases challenging the president's executive order. Before the judge's ruling, at least 100,000 visas had been revoked, casting gloom on hopes of people waiting to enter the United States. The dark clouds were lifted by late Friday evening when the State Department said it was reversing the cancellation of visas. President Trump, in a series of tweets, denounced Judge Roberts. As the ban was lifted, refugees and thousands of travelers from Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria and Yemen, who had been stopped in their tracks last weekend by the president's executive order, scrambled to get flight to quickly enter the United States. The court ruling was the first move in what could be months of legal challenges to President Trump's push to clamp down on immigration.
Everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. No hate, no fear. Everyone is welcome here. No hate, no fear. Everyone is welcome here. No hate.
But the protests against the executive order are far from over, some going as far as the White House.
Show me what democracy looks like.
Just outside, a large crowd that included Iranian Americans held signs and chanted, saying their protest was a message of love and peace.
We are sending a message of love and peace, of unity, not of fear, hate, and division.
You know, we've got to realize this is nothing but an Islamophobic policy, purely based on someone's religion. And there's so many inconsistencies. And the judge, even in that trial itself, in that hearing, the judge asked Trump's lawyer for some rationale, some facts, not fiction. And she said, you know what, we don't have to provide any. And that epitomizes what Trump is doing here. It's pure hatred, pure Islamophobia.
Mo Farah shows the good.
While people in countries affected by the ban denounced it, several thousand people demonstrated outside the US Embassy in London on Saturday against the ban.
So it's from the film Clueless, and it's our favourite 90s film, and basically it's the only quote that I could think of that would kind of explain how awful it is and the horror and disbelief that I feel about Donald Trump.
Yeah, mine's also from the film Clueless, and Cher says it does not say RSVP on the Statue of Liberty, and I thought that just summed the whole thing up brilliantly.
I feel it's totally wrong to ban movements of populations from countries, the countries that he has chosen that have suffered so much during the wars that have taken place in their countries. It's not the way to deal with the potential threat of terrorism, is not to prevent Muslims, for example, from coming to this country. They have a great contribution that they could make to our future.
In the meantime, the Trump administration argues that the travel ban would help protect the United States and has promised to seek at least a lie.
Facebook statement condemning Donald Trump is something I'm especially proud of.
We'll be discussing the impact of the travel ban, President Trump's executive orders, and America's stand with Iran with one of our regulars on the program. Ambassador Joe Keshi joins us to answer our questions. Just stay with us. Now, amidst all the developments on President Donald Trump's executive order, Iran seized the opportunity to test a ballistic missile. The U.S. government called the Iranian government on the test, saying it violates a UN resolution on nuclear activity. Later in the week, America announced sanctions over the country. It's not the first time the U.S. has done this, but will it be different this time? And will Iran stop its nuclear activity in the interest of other nations and the UN? Here to talk about it and other issues concerning the United States is former Permanent Secretary at the Nigeria Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Joe Keshi. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
So let's talk about the Iranian nuclear activity, the missile that was tested over last week. And it's not the first time the United States has threatened Iran with sanctions and finally done it. But the question is, this time, do you think it will achieve the desired impact?
No, I don't think so. First, let me say that, following your introduction, that in my view, I thought it was not wise for the Iranians to have done this now. I would have advised them to, look, even if they were ready for the test, to postpone it for a few months until they were sure of what's going on in Washington, you know. But having said that, you know, for sanctions to be effective on a country like Iran, it has to be something near a global sanction. And I also think that the Americans are not wise, because right now there's so much, I mean, since the sanctions were lifted, or some of the sanctions were lifted, the Iranians have given Americans, particularly Boeing, a chunk of good business. And I'm not sure that the Americans will want to risk that at this point in time. So at the end of the day, this is just cosmetic. I think the new U.S. Folks wants to show that they are going to be tough on Iran, and they want to put Iran on notice that we will do A, B, C, D if you violate the agreement. But here is the deal. This agreement was signed by about 6 or 7 countries. And until they all come together and agree to act collectively, I'm not sure that any sanctions against Iran will be effective. So
what's the message that Iran really needs to hear in order to make it stop developing nuclear activity?
No, I'm not sure that this is. I think this is a normal, this is not a nuclear, you know, because they claim that this has no capacity to carry a nuclear warhead. Now, the point is that we don't know if this is true or not. But here's also what is going on, that the International Atomic Energy is effectively monitoring Iran. And so if Iran violates that, that agreement that was made, and the agency, informs the rest of the members of the team that put this together, that's when I think we're going to have a serious crisis, and Iran will really be in some serious, difficulty. But for now, I just think that they're obeying to the best they can, and this is just part of their continuation of wanting to be, a strong military power within the region.